Hello everyone, welcome back to another live stream. Thank you so much for everyone who's been waiting for me. And welcome to all of our members, subscribers and viewers for another live stream. If you're new to our live stream, then this live stream is primarily for more in-depth talk and to open the space up for the community to participate. If you're a fan of videos, short updates, you can go ahead to my video section where I post videos regularly that are very brief. So if you're interested in more in-depth conversations, this is the place for you. And again, welcome everyone to another live stream. And thank you so much for everyone commenting and greeting. I posted a couple of videos earlier today, and I have another video coming up. And these videos are surrounding primarily Gaza, the negotiations, the conflicts internally in Israel, and the video that I'm about to post that will be most likely followed up by another video tomorrow is to do with Lebanon. Lebanon has been witnessing lots of important developments lately, and it looks like things are getting closer. With regards to Israel's conflicts, and obviously you can watch all of these videos after my live stream for more in-depth detail. With all of these videos, you have all of the details inside them. If you did watch them and you have anything for my attention, you can obviously participate and ask me anything about that too, or share your thoughts as well. I'll usually open up the space up for you after the introduction, after we speak about the topic for tonight. So one of them was obviously conflicts between the head of the Mossad and Benjamin Netanyahu when it comes to the negotiations. Bibi Netanyahu is still putting obstacles in front of the negotiating delegation so that they don't reach a ceasefire. And the head of the Mossad, who's supposed to be the closest person to him, who belongs directly to the office of the prime minister, is showing defiance in a meeting with other people. He told him, we can't wait. We can no longer, even for weeks, Clearly there's a deal on the table, and the person delaying it is Benjamin Netanyahu. And he even has the head of the Mossad criticizing him now. Second video was about the Palestinian resistance that is proving time after time that not only are they remaining there and fighting Israel, they are improving, they are increasing their capabilities, they're having more intelligence over the ground, they're coming up with more complicated attacks on the occupying forces in Gaza, and they're not going anywhere. Obviously, these two, you can go ahead and watch them after this live stream. What I want to talk to you about in this live stream is, again, the problems that Israel has with the Orthodox community, and we're having an escalation. In Israel, the Orthodox community or the Haredi community, they obviously have different kind of denominations, but the primary two movements are the Sephardi movement and the Ashkenazi movement. Both of them had harsh criticism for the government in their conscription attempts against the Haredi community in Israel, something that came from the Supreme Court, not from the government. Why? Because the government relies on Orthodox votes, because they have Orthodox movements inside of the government. As a matter of fact, the government refused to go ahead with anything to do with conscription when it comes to the Orthodox community, but when it comes to the Supreme Court, they took a different decision when it comes to them, and they ordered the government to force conscription on the Orthodox community. So what happened? Obviously, we have the Supreme Court ordering conscription on the Orthodox community, and now we've had more statements coming up from the leaders of these movements. Now, this person who spoke, that my video here revolves around, is Rabbi Yitzhak Yosef. Rabbi Yitzhak Yosef, up until a few months back, was the chief rabbi of the Sephardi community. He is the son of the Rabbi Ovadia Yosef. And these people have been in and out of the government. And again, for those of you who don't understand, these people go to the government to get benefits for their community, by the way, and obviously protect themselves, get the funding that they need. Okay. Now he came up with a statement. What did he say? He said, if you receive a draft order, tear it up, tear it apart, rip it apart. If you receive a draft order for the army, tear it apart. And he made some more statements, and there's chaos in Israel after his statements, and now people are calling for legal action, criminal proceedings to be taken against him. Again, and if that happens, you're talking about an earthquake. You already have an unprecedented move in the form of the Supreme Court order. That's unprecedented. And now people calling for criminal proceedings against the top figure in the Orthodox community when it comes to the Sfaradi Haredi community. That again will increase the tensions in Israel. So let me share a couple of things with you, and obviously after that I will open the space up for you for your participation. So we had an article in the Israeli newspaper Wine. It said, after Rabbi Yitzhak Yosef called on ultra-Orthodox yeshiva recruits to tear up conscription orders if they were sent to them, and said that even idlers who are not immersed in Torah study are exempt from going to the army, some are calling for investigation of the former chief rabbi for sedition and solicitation for an offense against the security service law. The Association Hadosh for Religious Freedom and Equality drafted a letter of complaint about the commission of criminal offenses against the rabbi and sent it to the defense minister and other top figures in Israel, including the police, as well as divisions of the Israeli police. In the letter of complaint written by the Reform rabbi and lawyer Uri Regev, CEO of Hadosh, Rabbi Yosef was quoted as saying that, quote, he who receives a draft order will tear up the draft order, will not go. And again, if you're ordered something by the government, by the court, and you have a religious figure ordering you to do the contrary, that's illegal. That's illegal. This is what they're establishing it on. Then he continued, will not go. He is a soldier in God's army. The people who tear it apart, the draft order, and don't serve in the IDF, he is a soldier in God's army. He will not be afraid of them. Certainly he is not going to listen to them. If they take him to prison, the head of the yeshiva will come with him. Right? Look at how much support. Even if they go to prison, he's telling them, one of the religious community will come with you. He will come and support you. He also said that, quote, every son of the Torah is exempt from going to the army, even those who are idle and don't study. Going to the army, you get spoiled. There are female soldiers, officers, and profanity. There are terrible things there. Don't go there, period. Obviously, we had previous comments saying that it's blasphemous as well and stuff like that from him and from other rabbis as well. Regev claimed in his complaint that Rabbi Yosef's announcement constitute offenses of sedition according to the penal code and solicitation of an offense against the security service law. The words speak for themselves and need neither a sermon nor interpretation. Their serious criminal meaning is unequivocal, and its consequences are far-reaching in disrupting the recruitment of soldiers from the sector of the ultra-Orthodox Jews in general, and during this emergency in particular. Under these circumstances, it is clear that the policy of ignoring Rabbi Yosef's words and criminal behavior in various areas in the past cannot continue any longer. In his letter, Regev demanded that investigative and criminal measures be taken against Rabbi Yosef and clarifies that if the law enforcement authorities do not do so, Hadosh will consider applying to the court. So they're looking for state-level action against him. And if the state doesn't take it, and there's very high likelihood that they don't, because the state is split, you have the judicial part obviously having the issuing the orders, and you have the government going against it, saying, no, we need to reach a deal with them. We can't do that. Why? Because they're relying on their votes. Then they continued. Member of Knesset Hili Trooper from the state camp responded to the words of Rabbi Yitzhak Yosef, the first of Zion. That's another of his titles, by the way, the first of Zion, they label them. And they said, that were revealed obviously on the media, they said it's quite amazing that the one who was until last month the chief rabbi of the state of Israel calls on those who receive conscription orders to tear them up and not come to protect the state. From the rabbi's point of view, the benefit from the support of the state, yes, but to protect it physically, no. Trooper added, Rabbi Yitzhak Yosef expanded and emphasized that the ban on conscription also applies to those who are idle and don't study. Because they go to the army, they get spoiled. If they go to the army, they get spoiled. There are female soldiers, officers, and profanity. There are terrible things there. You don't go there, period. There is some contempt for the soldiers, the officers, and the heroic fighters, many of whom, by the way, are followers of the Torah and are really not idlers who shed their blood in the Gaza Strip and other parts of the country, according to him. He also added, there are indeed terrible things in the army. Thousands of bereaved families across the country, religious and secular, knew how to tell with a broken heart about the terrible price. This is not profanity, but the sons and daughters who have fallen to protect our country. We need more partners who see the truth. Not a place of corruption, but of repair, saving lives, and mutual guarantee. That was the comment from Trooper. Okay. What do we understand here? Well, number one, they're not backing down. Where they might have temporary success and short-term success with probably dozens or hundreds of people from this community who would be willing to go and participate, you have the chief rabbi coming up and telling them this. Previous chief rabbi was there up until a couple of months back, chief rabbi of Israel, which is the top religious figure in Israel, by the way, alongside other members of the Orthodox community. But what's protecting them, by the way, is the government. Why? Because they're represented in the government. And the government will not necessarily adhere to the courts in Israel. As a matter of fact, you have a man leading the government who wants to take the Supreme Court down. The judicial reform that he was pushing for was intended to completely dismantle the independence of the courts in Israel, of the Supreme Court, and would allow the government to dictate who are the top people in the Israeli Supreme Court. And so long as you have the government with fractions of the ultra-Orthodox community represented by these political parties, you will continue to have this problem. And there is another issue here, the issue of enforcement, by the way, because the countries in general is facing a lot of people who are refusing to serve, including reservists, including people who just left Gaza, who are not willing to go back, including families of soldiers saying that we're refusing to send them back, let alone the people fleeing the country. And the Orthodox community is viewing all of that. As a matter of fact, they're looking at Benjamin Netanyahu's son, who is sitting in Miami. The Israeli population are looking at him. Okay, you want us to go and fight this war for you, and you're refusing a ceasefire, yet you want to add more people to go and serve in a pointless war? And that's what I wanted to share with you in this video. Let me open the space up for all of you. And again, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for participating. Let me open 2 live chats here so I can address as many as possible. Let me have a look. Firstly, Virus 455, welcome to supporter. Thank you for your membership, and any new members as well and supporters. Thank you so much. Lime Fruit, thank you for your super, and so is X51. Thank you so much for your super, much appreciated. And if you wouldn't mind, if you have anything for me, if you just highlight it, please, so we don't miss anything. And again, apologies in advance if I might miss some of your comments. Haytham Gharib, the only democracy in the Middle East is forcing people to join the army. It's ridiculous, isn't it? The only democracy, the only ethnocracy, the only Jewish supremacy in the Middle East. Imdad cousin, Brother Mahmoud, how is it possible to take control of the Golan Heights and remaining under resistance control? If you're looking at a situation where everything escalates and opens up, you're talking about certain forces from the resistance, primarily Hezbollah, maybe some obviously in Syria too, taking strategic parts and controlling them or taking them down, main command bases or what have you, and they've already done that remotely. So if they would want to go to the north, it's pretty much easy access. You're talking about ghost towns, only the military is present there, and they know where they are even without invading. So it's pretty easy for them to do that if they would want to do that. And if they would expect Israel to destroy the north, by the way, but don't be surprised if Hezbollah controls parts of the north, that Israel would put the north in ruins, including killing Israelis who are still there by any chance, like they did with Gaza. But they would control strategic places, go deeper into the territory, and they wouldn't find it very problematic, especially seeing as many civilians have fled, over 80,000. That was from the beginning of the war, let alone the other parts, obviously, and the people who fled the country altogether. Maybe Lynn is saying, so these Haredis are Zionists but don't want to fight. Some of them might describe, look, some people who in the Haredi community, although it's quite rare, you wouldn't say that we are Zionists, right? But they don't have that much of a problem with, being in the state of Israel and getting benefits from the state. This is the thing here. There are a lot of voices who are against Zionism altogether. The voices who are completely anti-Zionist, some of them will take a pro-Palestinian stance as well, by the way, but that's not the general norm. The general norm is that people who, to them, that's the interpretation of Judaism, and the country is secular, although it calls itself a Jewish democratic state. By the way, remember that. They tell the West, we're the only democracy in the Middle East. They call themselves a Jewish and democratic state. Firstly Jewish, then democratic. But the Jews, they don't buy that. Why? Because there are still many things in Israel that they consider to be secular. There are lots of internal fightings in Israel when it comes to religious beliefs, religion versus state, mixing all together. Many of these communities have their own places where they implement their own laws, by the way. So whether or not their approach towards Zionism is militant or less militant, right, more understanding, they still refuse to join the army. Why? Because they've been getting these exemptions for all of this time. So to them, why do you want me to go now? I wasn't joining in, and I was getting benefits, and I was sitting there and happy studying the Torah. What do you want from me now? And they're looking. they're looking at areas like Tel Aviv, right? Tel Aviv, mostly secular, mostly. And so many people get exemption. Some of them do it for moral purposes, right? And then they get imprisoned to prove a point. They'll say, I'm against the army because I'm against the state and it's committing crimes and I don't want occupation and. They want to prove a point. But the majority will ask for exemption without all of this hassle because they don't want to go to prison. They don't want to face repercussion. They're not interested in making statements. So they'll say, I have a disability, I have a mental illness, I'm a pacifist, whatever it is. I hope that elaborates. I was from Maybelline. GI, I've seen the post saying that Israel informed the US they will attack Lebanon. It sounded as now. Have you seen it? Look, I just, one of my videos was posted about a statement that the Secretary General of Hezbollah made earlier today. And if that would push Israel for a war, although that was more of an instigation and a referral, a reference to how Israel behaves in general, by the way. There are other indications that I will be talking about, including the latest statement that came from senior figures in Israel and what that means. Because Israel targeted South Lebanon, they killed, if I'm not mistaken, about 3 civilians, and Hezbollah responded with 120 missiles to Kiryat Shmone only, Kiryat Shmone. That's apart from their regular attacks on the northern part of Israel, on the confrontation line. It's serious talk, right? And again, there's the argument of, are you capable or are you not capable, right? Realistically speaking, if you're not capable of defeating the weakest link when it comes to the resistance, which is Gaza, 10 months of genocide and destruction, and you have the resistance coming up on the top and putting the heads of the genocidal maniacs in the sand, what are you going to do with Lebanon, right? That's a valid argument. And the army and the shortage and the reports and. But again, the other argument, and that's the argument that I have, by the way, is that they don't make sense. So why wouldn't they make any more sense, right? Why wouldn't they make any sense at all by going to Lebanon? They didn't make sense in Gaza, did they? So if they didn't make sense in Gaza, why wouldn't they go to Lebanon and not make sense there and make a bigger ignorant mistake? They did, and all of their pattern proves that, by the way. Like, look at the targeted assassinations of senior figures in the resistance. Although they want it as something symbolic to show their bloodthirsty population and. But look at what they've done. They've killed so many people. What did that do? It grew the resistance stronger. It recruited more people. It made people sympathize with those who are attacked. Hell, they recruited people all over the world, supporters for the Palestinian cause and supporters for the resistance too. Why wouldn't they go and do it in Lebanon? They can. They can do it. And that's the thing. If imagine Benjamin Netanyahu was your prime minister, wherever you are, wouldn't you be on tenterhooks, like anxious every minute? What is he about to do? He already killed so many of us, and he's not stopping the war. What? Israel is led by psychopaths, by psychopathic, genocidal maniacs, a death cult. Imagine he's leading your country. Wouldn't you be worried? Yeah, you'd be worried. What is he going to do tomorrow? Right? He killed so many Israelis. He's sending troops as cannon fodder after brainwashing them and indoctrinating them with hate, like Zionism does ever since the establishment of Israel. He killed so many prisoners in Gaza. He killed them while they are being taken to Gaza, ordered, Nova Festival, Ra'im, Be'er, and now you have these small, tiny write inquiries in Israel about the 7th of October, although they're not going to show you everything. You can forget about it. That, hint how the state was responsible. Oof, that's very worrying. And if he's able to do that with Gaza, he'll do that with Lebanon. And they're increasing the tone. And the person increasing the tone, by the way, is the person who was toning it down just a few weeks back. Traveler said, Salam, Brother Mahmoud, have you heard of some news reporting certain investors in Israeli companies selling stocks before the 7th of October? Absolutely, and I spoke about it back in October or November, that was. If you go scroll back, I have hundreds of videos now. It's probably difficult to see it, but just after October, if you go on my video tab, you will see a video that I posted, including the companies. One of them was Bank Leumi. That's one of the biggest banks in Israel. Shorting and selling stocks before the 7th of October. They knew it was coming. Clearly, some people who were close to people in power knew it was coming, and they betted on it, and they made millions. They made hundreds of millions. This bank, they made approximately 600 million or something stupid like that. So clearly someone knew something. And by the way, that's another thing, because if you're into investment in stocks, there are regular investments and there are irregular investments in irregular times. Everything was irregular there, by the way. Everything was irregular. It didn't make sense. And it was bulk. In bulk, it's as if someone's anticipating something. But that also, as in, faded away with the clouds of the genocide. Let's see if we have anything else. Arcanarchus, thou shalt not kill, repeated in various languages and various books, but they are pretty clear in each. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, you shall not covet, and talk about Judaism, right? 10 Commandments, the pillars of Judaism. They're in breach of all of them. Jewish in everything but the name. What Judaism? Jean Mahmoud, do you think Israel will collapse by itself? Well, it's implementing self-destruction mode now, isn't it? And look, let's be realistic. On the 7th of October, they didn't have a good option. They had two options. One option was take a step back, bite the bullet, get your people out, even if you pay a price, then look to solve what they call as the problem in Gaza. Then the second option was to do what they're doing, commit an all-out genocide and barbarism in Gaza. In an ideal world, there would have been a third option, which is take a step back, completely review everything and end it once and for all. Implement equality and you'll end the problem. If you had equality, you wouldn't have had a 7th of October. But let's say Israel is as it is, and they had to take one of the two decisions. Either I take a step back, I have 280 people kidnapped by this enemy in Gaza, and I need to get them back. What do I do if I only care about the Israelis, by the way. Like, if you're a Zionist and you dehumanize the other people and you only care about the Israelis, which is also a lie, by the way. They don't care about Israel. They don't care about Jews. It's all a front. It's all a big lie. They're a neo-colonialist, supremacist, violent project, taking the shape of Judaism and taking, like, other projects take different shapes. Anyway, if I'm concerned about the Israelis, would I go and carpet bomb Gaza when they can be anywhere? Of course not. You take a step back. It would still be bad. Why? Because it would show the people that, oh, okay, people can come and attack us and we will listen to them. Not that they haven't set that precedent before. They have. They've proven historically that they only understand the language of force. They withdrew from Sinai by force, they withdrew from South Lebanon by force, and they withdrew from Gaza by force. But, the lesser of two evils. They chose the worst evil. They chose the worst option. Go and carpet bomb Gaza on a high, and also invade, by the way. This was the bigger problem, right? The bigger problem was their invasion. The bigger problem was the ground invasion. Why? It's tried and tested. And previously, under different leadership, under different military leaderships, under different circumstances, at some points it was Benjamin Netanyahu too, they withdrew. Why? Because they felt the wrath, they felt the hell of being in Gaza. They went and did it again. And not only did they do that, and they started damaging themselves, by the way, internally and externally, they made themselves weaker. They damaged their social cohesion further. It was already damaged and wounded. They added salt and poison to the wounds. Then they made splits in society, they made splits in politics, they made splits in the security establishment, and for the first time ever, the people started viewing the military establishment as an untrustworthy establishment. In Israel, by the way, whether you're left or right or whatever it is, some people had obviously a disliking for the army and what have you, for their own purposes, but the general feeling was the army is a sacred establishment and we can't touch it. For the first time, that's been hit heavily. And they're seeing themselves damaging their country in the process, losing international legitimacy and sympathy. And they continued to make it war. What does that tell you? And they're saying, not me, they're saying we're in an existential war. This is a war on our independence. And they're doing everything to prolong it. What does that tell you? It's like a blind man running towards a cliff. That's what they're doing. Because if you are facing an existential threat, why would you continue the war that's causing you the existential threat? If you're in an existential threat, your first priority is to what? Not win the war. No. That's the last thing you need to worry about. If you're in an existential threat, the first thing you need to do is save yourself. Even if that means biting the bullet or admitting defeat or losing something, but you're saving yourself. As an entity, you're saving a bit of face with the international community. They're doing none of that. And they are committing suicide. I mean, listen, what they've done, I said that a couple of months ago, what Israel is doing hasn't been done by anyone who supports Palestine, by the way. It hasn't been done. If you gathered everyone that supported the cause and were dedicated for life for Palestine, if you gathered all of them and said, all of you go on an international awareness campaign they wouldn't have done 1% of what Israel's done. Why? Because Israel stripped itself completely, acted exactly as it is, and persisted. So they made so many people do a 180 on them. And that's from the first 3 weeks, by the way. People are saying at the beginning, oh no, Hamas, the baddies, they hit them. 3 weeks in, they started saying, oh, so that's why Hamas attacked you. Okay. It was done 3 months in. 3 weeks in, sorry. Now they're giving people not just time to see what they're doing and how barbaric and abhorrent they are, but they're giving people time to look at history, which is so stupid. They live on deception, by the way. They thrive in the darkness. Zionism thrives in the darkness. They shouldn't be under the light, under scrutiny. They shouldn't be there. But they're hell-bent on remaining there. You don't want people scrutinizing. You don't want people going into the history books. You don't want people questioning. You want people to think, okay, well, there was something happened, de-escalation, that's it. And now they've given the world population an option. Hell, they oblige some people. No, you need to look in the past and you need to look at everything. And they started reading up about 1948 and the formation of Zionism and who was behind it and. If there's a self-destruction in Israel, then Benjamin Netanyahu is sitting on it, not just pressing on it. He's sitting on the self-destruction button. Jean Mahmoud saying, thank you for the answer, but my question wasn't regarding genocide massacres. I'm sorry if I misunderstood it. You said they do that since inception. It was more linked to their internal issues pushing many of them out of Palestine. Well, their internal issues have been pushing some of them out of Palestine anyway. The judicial reforms led to groups in Israel setting groups online to say, traveling and migrating together, asking about which places are good to live in, right? Low prices, high income, whatever, security, whatever it is. And now it's even more. And with the Haredi problem, it's even more because they threatened them before. We will leave. The community leader said, we will leave. And you're talking about a 1.2 million community. Now, 1.2 million already were living permanently, excluding descendants outside of Israel, and were considered in the Israeli population, by the way, before the 7th of October. At least, and that's being exceptionally conservative, by the way, at least 2 million fled due to the war. The Zionist Federation had a poll asking the people, many people who left, will you be coming back? 80% said no. And now you want to add a large chunks of the Haredi community. They'll travel anywhere, these people, by the way, if you don't know that. They'll travel anywhere across the world. They don't mind. So long as they follow their religious teachings, they will go anywhere. Paul Ambrose, do you think Israel will try and take the Jordan side of the Jordan River? Well, if you look at their leaders now and the map of the greater Israel, from the Nile to the Euphrates, you have a government minister posting propaganda to support the occupation of Sinai. Many in Israel call Jordan, the Palestine for the Palestinian people. But they don't, they wouldn't try and do a lot with Jordan because you're talking about a very loyal regime in Jordan. The Jordanian regime is the most loyal regime for Israel. Let it be known. The most loyal. Why? Same people planted them there. The British Empire. They had them there, and they had the British Mandate of Palestine. And they received a confirmation from there. We will not do anything to stop this state of Israel. They acted like they participated in the 1948 war, and as a matter of fact, they led the Arab armies, right? They had the top command. Top command for what? To go and kill down any resistance and make it easier for Israel to occupy. So, in a way, it's already Israel, right? But with a different person in power. Greetings from Edinburgh. That's GI. Israel says it will build medical center for the kids in Gaza near the Magic Pier. Greetings back. Thank you for your question. You said medical center. Well, the pier is gone. That's number one. Secondly, medical center for what? To plant explosive in it and explode every child inside it? What are they going to do a medical center for? They might as well call it an infanticide center. Medical infanticide center. Let's put all of the Gazan children and commit another infanticide with them inside. You know, how ironic. They'll go and tell Zelensky we're willing to help you with the hospital that was bombed in Ukraine. With what exactly? With a JDAM bomb? This is your support for the hospitals in Gaza. Yeah, a bit of dark humor. What do you mean medical support? These people are psychopathic, genocidal, satanic death cult. These people are. They deliberately kill people. That's the thing. I think people fail to comprehend that they deliberately kill innocent people. I mean, this is what we've been witnessing. We've known that for a very long time. But they do it for fun. They think it's fun. They get kicks out of it. They're sick, demented, abhorrent, depraved. This is what they do. So, and this is what they do when they tell people go down to the south, by the way. Death camps. It's not a refugee. Everywhere is a death camp in Gaza. Go to the south. They'll bomb them while they're going down. Or did you forget the truck having 70 people on them, mostly kids, mostly children? They landed a bomb on the truck. The bodies were flying of children. Same thing every time. Refugee camps. They talk about the lowest of humanity. I haven't seen humanity dip any lower, really. But as if you can call that human. But I really haven't heard that, but worth commenting on. Francine Barr, what is Trump going to do in Israel? Does he have any plans? Look at who's funding him. Always look for the money. Who's funding him? Miriam Edelson sent him $100 million. Who is she? The wife of the late Sheldon Adelson. Who is Sheldon Adelson? Sheldon Adelson is the same person who funds Benjamin Netanyahu, who used to fund him, who funded media in Israel to support Benjamin Netanyahu. Zionism. The Zionist octopus. So, you're talking about the same people supporting them. And Donald Trump already did abhorrent stuff when he was the president, moving the embassy, all of his bigoted tone, calling Biden, "You're talking like a Palestinian," as if it's derogatory. Anyone expecting anything from Trump on Palestine is delusional. You might argue on internal policies or what have you. Then again, that's debatable too, but he's not going to be much different to Biden when it comes to Palestine. Mind over matter, an American expert said the number killed could be close to 500,000 because of food, med shortages. Your thoughts? Look, that's the same thing like with this recent report that said 186,000. Firstly, if you read through these reports, they would be talking about the overall number of the casualties, not now, and due to various causes. And many of these estimates, if you take into consideration the time, like the 186,000 number was talking about a period ahead and people dying as a result of other things to do with the war, not directly killed by bombs, okay? There's an argument to be made there. Yeah, and some people said a couple of months back there was this study that even if all aid would have gone into Gaza 4 months ago, people would still be dying due to malnutrition for a period after. Yes, but the people get mixed up between that and the number now. And the numbers that we have now are accurate. Approximately 39,000 with 8,000 missing, mostly dead. But that's the thing, the government in Gaza, the authority, they will only register a person as dead once they have verification. Otherwise, they're not entitled to. They'll say they're missing. Because of their transparency, because of their integrity. And they by the way, if Israel killed more people and they recorded more deaths, that wouldn't be beneficial for Israel. So they would publish the numbers anyway. They have nothing to hide. However, these statistics and these studies, they talk more about the overall number due to multiple causes as a result of the war, and not now, not exactly now. Ansarullah saying, Mahmoud, what did you say about Jordan? We have been lied to in Western history books. What's the true history in 1948 with Jordan, Egypt, Syria, etc.? Look, maybe one day I'll post a couple of videos, short videos about the history. The formation, before the formation, after the formation. 1948. The Arab armies, the so-called Arab armies who fought, apart from people who actually fought with certain intentions, right? They were led by people who already sold Palestine. What are we talking about? Mostly sold Palestine. From Saudi Arabia to Jordan to Egypt at the time, at a governmental level. Now, were there people fighting with different intentions? Yes. Like there were people fighting in Western armies who bought the lie of democracy and were protecting human rights in Afghanistan and in Tora Bora, thinking that they're really going to do something good. But they saw. And look at the results. That's the thing. The results speak for themselves. Israel wouldn't have existed nor lasted without the support of the surrounding governments. Infinite content. Thank you so much, Mahmoud. Remember when I said you can't have a fifth column form against you and win? Well, look where we are now. That's true. That's true. And you have so many parts, by the way, inside of Israel. It's not only the Orthodox community that we're talking about. Kate, Rafah crossing. Egypt wants the PA to control. Milikovsky insists on not Hamas. No PA. The day after, Milikovsky should not dictate. Why Egypt are bending knees and kissing the ring? Well, Egypt was already dealing with Hamas. So even if they have a preference in the form of the PA, they prove that they deal with Hamas anyway. That's number one. They're not dealing with Israel on the Rafah side because they don't want to set a precedent. What they want and what Milikovsky wants, or Netanyahu, is irrelevant because it should be the people of Gaza. Who are they to dictate, like you're saying? Who are they to dictate? It's the people of Gaza's choice. They should choose who supports them, who runs the borders, and Hamas, democratically elected the government. What are we talking about? Then why Egypt bending knees and kissing the ring? What were we expecting from the government in Egypt, really? Was anyone expecting them to go? You're talking about a government that came in a military coup, right? And they constantly repeat the same things, respecting the treaties with Israel and what have you. They took certain positions that Israel didn't like to a level where Israel said that Egypt bears responsibility for the 7th of October. Smotrich said that. They bothered Israel greatly when they refused to open all of the borders for the ethnic cleansing campaign to be done. They faced a lot of pressure and they persisted with that, to be fair. And that's their strategic decision as a state. Do you know what I mean? They're not going to fight. Simple. You had a couple of altercations here and there. And again, was anyone expecting them to? I sure as hell wasn't expecting. Talal Mansour, Mossad warned Netanyahu of running out of time. Can you break it down? Yeah, I broke it down in another video, but I'll elaborate a little bit more. Firstly, this man is supposed to be the closest person to Netanyahu. Yet this man managed to create conflicts even with the head of the Mossad. Imagine. So, they were in a cabinet meeting, and Netanyahu said something that infuriated the families of the Israeli prisoners. He said, the Israeli prisoners in Gaza are suffering, but they're not dead. Suffering, but they're not dead. Look at how he views them and how much he cares for them. That's for those of you who think, that if this person cares about the Israelis, he cares about nothing. Obviously, lots of criticism. One of the criticisms came from the head of Mossad. The head of the Mossad said, we don't have weeks. Okay. Why would the head of the Mossad say, we don't have weeks? Well, he is basing what he's saying, in my opinion, to the prime minister based on the pattern. It's like you need to be methodical about it. You need to look at it and contextualize what has been happening. The more these people are imprisoned in Gaza, the longer they are imprisoned in Gaza, the more likelihood of them dying. Israel killed 3 when they rescued the 4 and massacred 270 Palestinians in the process and wounded 500. And their barbarism. They killed over 50 in the first month. Now the death toll of Israelis in Gaza, due to Israel, by the way, is close to 100. Meaning Israel lost 1/3 of the Israelis who are imprisoned in Gaza because of its own actions, signaling that they were implementing the Hannibal Directive on them. to get rid of as many as possible so that Hamas wouldn't have cards to play with. So that Hamas wouldn't have cards to play with. And from the beginning of the war, the Palestinian resistance, Abu Ubaidah, as a matter of fact, he came up and said, the enemy is killing its own civilians imprisoned in Gaza deliberately, thinking that this would lower the price of what we're asking for in return. And we will tell them from now, even if we had one prisoner, we'll ask for the same thing. So they knew it from day one. Hell, many Israelis knew it from day one. Go and listen to the families of the Israeli prisoners in Gaza and what they have to say about Netanyahu and the government. And how they blame everything on Netanyahu, not on Hamas, by the way. And the head of the Mossad, he understands that. And regardless of where you are and what position you're in Israel, clearly, Netanyahu is giving everyone a hard time. He's like an impossible person to deal with. Totally impossible person to deal with. He has no respect for establishments in Israel. He has no respect for certain figures in the country. He has no person with people with way more expertise than him. And he sure as hell doesn't have any respect for the will of the people or the families who are suffering. He has no regard for them. And again, I highly doubt that the head of the Mossad statement will do anything. What will do the thing, I'll repeat it again, what will do the thing for Netanyahu is him being saved the day after. This is what will do it for him. So long as Netanyahu has a safety net, up until the following elections, by the way, not anyone like going temporary safety net like what Lapid, the opposition leader, offered him. No. Indefinite, up until the next elections. Safety net to remain in power after the war ends, plus maybe some other conditions, maybe to do with the judicial reform. He'll continue. He'll continue. Clearly. Ansarullah saying, what's up with the terrorist attack in a mystery country, Oman? And is Yemen able to get enough food from China, Iran, Russia? Why is Yemen still in famine? I actually haven't heard of this in Oman. It's such a peaceful, beautiful country. ISIS claims responsibility for a deadly attack mosque in Oman. ISIS meaning the Western powers intelligence services, or many people call it the Israeli secret intelligence service, killing who they usually kill, Muslims praying. That's what ISIS kills. I mean, firstly, I pray for the people over there. I hope, they didn't cause too much harm. I saw a rare shooting attack near a Shia Muslim mosque. Again, look, Western powers trying to, again, spark a Sunni Shia war. Typical malicious garbage from the West. What are we expecting? This is why they established ISIS. Sectarian stupidity, and you have some Muslim imbeciles who fall for that garbage. But I think the Omanis are clever. And, thankfully, alhamdulillah, we have clever people both in Shia and Sunni communities, although I disagree with any denomination. Islam came as Islam, as nothing else, but obviously we're where we are. But there are clever enough people, intelligence people on both sides that will put this down. They're trying to do that as much as possible. And they had attacks in Iran too. They obviously were hoping for a century of Sunni Shia war in Iraq, by the way. They were, the US think tanks were like, oh, we had 100-year Sunni Shia war. They'd love that, right? And by the way, when they went to Iraq, well, when did you start hearing about the Sunni Shia thing? After they went to Iraq. US plan, clearly, Sinister, malicious US plan. Saddam Hussein, he had Shia in the government. He had Christians in the government. He had people with Saddam. And then they came up with this sectarianism. And it didn't last very long. Because, after a while it becomes obvious. It's very short-lived. What human being, think about it this way, what kind of a human being, right, let alone a religious person, would go and attack worshippers of any faith, let alone followers of Islam with a different denomination? Or that have a different kind of... who does that? Who does that? Your worst enemy does that. That's who does that. Under the banner of whatever it is. So I hope that I don't think it will escalate too much. I mean, Oman is very known. It's a shame that they target such a peaceful country with very peaceful and nice people, by the way. And it's usually a very neutral country. It's a country that usually even does a lot when it comes to reconciliation. Like when China brokered the reconciliation talks between Iran and Saudi Arabia, Oman, they took a big part. They took a big part in that. And you're asking about Yemen getting enough food from China, Iran, Russia. They can still, they'd be able to obviously get something, but they're still being extorted, extortion attempts, really. Listen, the United States spoke with Ansarullah, the Houthis. Do you know what they offered them? This is what they offered them. They offered them international recognition, lifting of restrictions, sanctions, and recognizing them instead of the other government, by the way, only if they stop this embargo in Israel. Yet despite all of that, all of these offers, they said no. Israel must stop the war in Gaza. They must stop the genocide and lift the siege. Look at how these people, how much they stick to their morals, these people. They stick to their morals. They stick to their faith in a brave manner. Not until Israel stops the genocide in Gaza and lifts the siege. Not just stops and lift and give the Gazans everything they need. No money, no recognition, no nothing. And even if we starve. Look at them. That's why they can't be beaten. That's why Yemen cannot be beaten. Talal Mansour is asking if Egypt and Israel agreed to reopen the Philadelphia crossing given the circumstances. No. And I don't think that Egypt will agree to open the Philadelphia corridor and recognize Israeli presence there. Otherwise, they would have before. They don't want to do that. As a matter of fact, Egypt just said the negotiations are frozen up until Israel shows seriousness. They've been talking back and forth and reaching all of these developments, and all of a sudden Netanyahu goes and explodes everything up. Kate, Israel has now been exposed, a lack of tanks, etc. Have they been confirming how many dead? IDF? No, they don't confirm. They'll never confirm that number, by the way. Don't expect them to confirm that ever. Do you think they didn't want to publish because the majority of the dead are missionaries? No, they didn't want to publish because they didn't want to cause more hysteria in an already hysterical country. They're in hysteria and trauma. They're psychologically damaged. They no longer trust the state of Israel. Imagine them declaring the actual numbers. By the way, do you know when they only recognized certain numbers, by the way? In certain cases only, when there is like bulletproof evidence coming from the resistance. It's like, what do you have to say about that? And usually when you talk about people seen in footage published by the resistance or whatever. And again, even with that, but they'll never publish the true number. And that was the last one from Kate. Okay, we'll wrap it up there. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me. I'm glad to be with you. I was glad to be with you, and I'll hopefully be with you tomorrow as well. And I had another video posted while we were in this live. I might have another one for you, either tonight or tomorrow. That's during the day tomorrow. Tomorrow night we'll hopefully have the regular videos and live stream. Thank you so much for your participation. Obviously, apologies if I missed any of your comments. Special thanks to anyone who sent supers, Lime Fruit, K51, and Infinite Content. And welcome to any new supporters and members as well. Enjoy the rest of your evening or day or night, depending on where you are. Stay blessed. And I will see you soon in the next video. Peace, everyone.